Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he believe that his government should be transparent in all matters where conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest may occur between his ministers' personal interests and matters before his government?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, details regarding conflicts of interest and advice sought in relation to them are not generally disclosed. In order to ensure the confidentiality of Cabinet proceedings to maintain the effective conduct of public affairs, and in some cases to protect personal privacy. This has been the approach of successive administrations, including the one of the questioner, and I do not intend to depart from it.
The Honourable Pete Hodgson.
Mr. Speaker, why does such non-disclosure enhance the public's confidence that all is above board?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, well, there are a variety of reasons why this approach has been adopted by successive governments, including the one that the member was a minister of for 9 years, and as I said, I do not intend to depart from it.
The Honourable Pete Hodgson.
Mr. Speaker, why is he much happier to disclose publicly assertions that there is no real perceived conflicts of interest, as, for example, in the case of the Honourable Dr Nick Smith, the Honourable David Carter, or indeed himself, but so reluctant to advise the public whenever there is a real or perceived conflict of interest?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is a long-standing set of guidelines and procedures in the Cabinet manual as how ministers should approach conflicts of interest. They are well understood by ministers and, in my view, followed. From time to time, members will get up in this House and wrongfully assert that there's been a breach of conflict of interest, as the member often does for scurrilous reasons and not for accurate reasons. When that happens, in the interest of protecting the minister, I often go and seek an opinion from the Cabinet Office, and if that opinion is given, I release it. And that's on the basis of protecting a minister whose name would otherwise be brought in, aspersions would be cast upon by the sort of accusations made by this member, who spends a lot of time thinking about these things.
Order. No, the Prime Minister should not be going down that track. The Honourable Pete Hodgson.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. On roughly how many occasions has he, as Prime Minister, dealt with actual or perceived conflicts of interests involving one of his ministers over whatever time frame he chooses, a month, 3 months, a year, or since the election? A rough numerical estimate.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, well, in the last 24 hours, the answer to that is nil.
That brings order. The Honourable Pete Hodgson. Order. I've called the Honourable Pete Hodgson.
On roughly how many occasions has he, as Prime Minister, dealt with actual or perceived conflicts of interest involving himself since the last election?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know the answer to that question.
That brings to a close questions for oral answer. Would some honourable member care to... point of order, Ross Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. A point of order is called.
Mr. Speaker, question time has been quite robust, as it should be in a vibrant democracy. But listeners, sir, on the cross benches and the back benches often have a great deal of difficulty in listening. And might I suggest, sir, the issue was actually raised by the Honourable Peter Dunn, I think, in the last session, that might I suggest that listeners' aids might be appropriate, as we once had in this chamber before the installation of these grotesque overhead ugly-looking censors. And I endorse what the Honourable Peter Dunn, sir, has said on previous occasions, and I would request respectfully, sir, that you as Speaker would look at that possibility.
Order. The member may not have been in the House, but I explained to the House earlier on today that in fact there is an induction system available in the chamber. The Sergeant-Arms has receivers there. If the member wishes to avail himself of that system, that he can use the earpiece that's used for simultaneous interpretation and can get a direct feed from the floor of the House. So that is already, I explained to members, that is available. However, having said that, I'm not happy with the performance of the sound system, especially for members at the back of the House, and I might even say for the Speaker too, for that matter. And work is ongoing. We're identifying dead spots in the House, and the designers of the system are going to be doing more work to try and get, because it's a very sophisticated system, and we need to get it performing better. The Honourable Gerry Brownlee point...
Mr Speaker, just on that matter, I think one of the other problems is that under the systems that have operated here in the past, a lot of the interjection was not picked up by the microphone system. But subsequent to your suggestion today that perhaps it was just members being rowdy, and I think that was certainly part of the problem today, I did notice that a lot of the interjection is just as audible as the comments that are coming from whoever might be answering or asking a question. It was particularly evident in the case of Minister Collins when she was answering her questions. It was much answering. It was much easier to hear the comments from the other side of the House than it was from her, and she's only 4 seats down from where I'm sitting. And it's the whole system in here. I think I'm not sure if it's ever been tested with by the designers with the House in full session. It would be a very different chamber with only 1 or 2 people sitting in it.
The point the Honourable Member makes, the Honourable Leader of the House makes, is absolutely valid, that we're concerned that live microphones are picking up a lot of, they are very sensitive and they're picking up a lot of interjection and background noise, and that adds to the difficulty in hearing. And so I think what the member says is absolutely right, that the final solution to this problem may involve bringing technicians onto the floor of the House while question time is underway, and I've already sought the approval of the Business Committee of the House to allow that to happen, because normally someone who's not a member is not allowed onto the floor of the House while the House is in session, and I've already sought approval for that to happen so that technicians can listen on the floor during question time to hear what's going on, because we ought to get better performance out of it. It's meant to be a good system, it's meant to perform at a high level, and I think there's a wide degree of dissatisfaction with its performance because it's not good enough. Members need to be able to hear, and I think what both members have said is right, and especially what the Honourable Gerry Brownlee has said is valid, that the system is picking up a lot of background noise which makes it even harder to hear the person on their feet. And I apologise to members that this is happening. I regret that it's happening, and we will move now. We've got the designers, I think, if they're not here, they're arriving very shortly, and we will be moving on it as quickly as we can. If some honourable member would now please move that the House take note